So back circa 2010, I did a blog on the internet, and I went over kind of talked about where I was living at the time, which was not in a very good neighborhood, but it was pretty eventful, pretty funny. Some of the characters there and some of the stuff I ran into. And I talked about other topics too, just stuff that was going on in my life. I think I did it from 2010 to 2012, but 2010 was kind of the high point of it. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but I had just moved into this really, really crappy apartment, and my life was going through a period of upheaval at the time, and I was just observing some of the absurdness all around me. So one of the things I wanted to do was actually go back to some of that and transfer it into kind of this, I don't know, you want to call it a vlog or just whatever. Just relaying some of these stories. I know people found it pretty entertaining, and so I wanted to go through some of it. This one isn't necessarily today to start off with. It's about the neighborhood I was living in or some of the stuff I was going through, but it's actually to relay some funny, troubling, and everything in between stories involving me and some of my cousins. And to give you a little backstory, most of these stories took place somewhere between the age of about 16 to maybe 20, probably in that kind of time frame. And so it's going to be some stuff that, it's not, I say proud of. We're young, stupid, and, now we're much older and, just as stupid, but in a different way. So as I go through this stuff, bear in mind that this would have been circa 1996 to the year maybe 2000, somewhere in that time frame. It was a different day and age. It's weird to believe that, but it just is now. So you can't judge events and stuff based on. I mean, we did what we knew how, but looking back at some of the stuff, it's deeply troubling, to be honest with you. And it's what it is, though. So, kind of start with and give you kind of a little bit of background here. So, around this time period, at least during the early parts of it, I was working at a grocery store in high school. And at one point, my one cousin actually got a job working there, even though he was from the next town over. So, we were all Columbus boys, whatever you want to say, Columbus, Ohio. And, but, he was, one neighborhood over. And so we worked at this grocery store. And I remember, it was pretty immature, pretty dumb. Did a lot of dumb stuff. Looking back now as being in a position of leadership and leading over a lot of people, I was a terrible employee. And so was my cousin. I mean, so were most of us. It wasn't something, you're 16 years old, you're not going to take that serious. But at some point, I wasn't working this day, and my cousin was scheduled to come in. And so I told him, just call off, man. We're going to hang out. We were with our other cousin, a couple of chicks or whatever. And not that we were getting anywhere at that point, because we weren't. But it's, call off. No big deal. They ain't going to do anything. So the next day, he doesn't have a ride into work, and I can't give him a ride. And I tell him, hey, get a cab and go there. And that way, for, calling off yesterday, they're going to be like, man, your dedication to come in is really important, clearly. Because I had to do that one time. I had to take a cab to go to work. And they're impressed by my dedication. So he took a cab, and they fired him when he got there. And he wasn't happy about it in the least. And so he called me up, and he's like, they fucking fired me, and you told me to call off and everything. And I said, well, it's a grocery store, man. I mean, it's not like you're getting, you're, a vice president of finance for, Nationwide Insurance or something. I don't know what the fuck, It's a grocery store. Go find a different one. Is anyone close to where you live? Your one neighborhood over. And we were just goofing off anyways. So I went to pick him up, and I can't remember now why I couldn't take him to work, but somehow I could go pick him up. He got his money worth getting fired because I remember pulling up to pick him up, and he had this like Gatorade or something, and he took it and threw it at the fucking assistant manager, and then I'm there picking him up, so it looked good for me too. That everyone knows my cousin, and he just chucks this fucking Gatorade at him, and he had another one, and so. Drove around. He said, "Hey, I want to say goodbye to this person at a break table outside." So I drive him around, take him around to say goodbye. And I remember this girl there. She had red hair. He rolls the window down. He says, "Hey, you stupid fucking bitch," and throws this other Gatorade at her. And I'm like, "That's fucking great, man. I still work with these people." Now he just threw a Gatorade at this other one. And so I didn't know he was going to do that, clearly, but it looked like I did. And we just did a drive-by Gatorade bomb at her. And I remember it was pretty uncomfortable. I remember getting called in to the actual manager, not the assistant manager, but the manager and the assistant manager, and they're like reading me the riot act. And I'm like, I felt like Paulie in Goodfellas. Like, what do you want me to do? He's out of control. He's a bad seed. I try to talk to him, but I can't, and I'm trying to play it off and everything. But suffice to say, I mean, I didn't get fired or anything, but, clearly they didn't like me too much, at that point and going forward. And clearly the girl wasn't very happy about it either. So if she's still around and happens to be one of 5 people that watches this fucking video, I didn't have anything to do with that. It wasn't my fault. I didn't know. I thought he was just going to say goodbye. So let's fast forward a little bit. And another thing too, my cousin had a really bad problem with prank calling people. Like really, really bad, to the point that he probably needed some help. And he was really good about throwing his voice too. And he would do it all the time. He would call and, just the most bizarre stuff. Say, "Hey, I saw your ad, you're selling this car and I'm interested in buying it." And I'm like, I'm not selling a car. I don't know what you're talking about. So he would do that stuff. And he would call that grocery store and pretend to be a customer, make formal complaints against me, everybody else under the sun that worked there. I remember there was this one rather attractive woman that worked there. She was a little bit older than us, and he actually wanted to ask her out one time. And I remember went to the store for him to be able to ask her out. He's wearing a sleeveless thing, we've been pumping some iron. He's like, "Man, I got to get a pump first." He goes over into the produce section and grabs a watermelon and starts curling this fucking watermelon because he wants to pump his biceps up. And I'm not making this up. I mean, he really, in the middle of a grocery store, imagine fucking pumping this fucking watermelon. Suffice to say, it doesn't work. She rejects his advances. Well, later, we're at the airport, and I don't know why we're at the airport, but for some reason we're at the airport, and then he calls and asks to talk to the manager, and he sounds like he's like a 50-year-old man, and he's 17, and makes a complaint that this girl, I think her name was Anna, offered to give him oral pleasure in front of his wife, and it made him very uncomfortable. I don't know if she got in trouble about that. If she's by chance watching this video, well, he did it to me too. He did it to everybody else. He would make these bullshit complaints. So I'm not sorry. I mean, I don't think you got in trouble. You didn't get fired. So it is what it is. He did get a girl fired. He got her fired from a BP because he called and he said that he was buying a donut and he heard her mutter under her breath and "fat ass," and he felt guilty. And so she got fired for that. I don't remember who she was. I think she was just some girl who worked at a gas station near where he lived, and he probably asked her out, and she said no, and he was pissed because he'd ask any girl out anywhere. Like everywhere we went, he'd ask a girl out. And that kind of leads into another story. So I'm still working at Kroger's, and I'm 17. I'm not even 18 yet, because most of them, when I was senior high school, I was mostly dating the same girl, but I dated a couple girls, but it's never anything serious. I was not very good with it. I was not good at talking to women. And I asked this girl I worked with, she wanted to go out, and it was awkward. It wasn't going anywhere, but I had her phone number. Well, she had a lot of sisters. And my cousin says, hey, man, can I get their number from you? Because I want to try to hit up one of her sisters. And I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. So I gave him the number. And I should have known better. And this is the part that's a little disturbing. So later that night, I get a call from this girl's father. And he's not saying anything nice to me. In fact, he's cursing me out, threatening me, and saying, why did you call here saying you were going to, tie me up and bang me or not bang him, but maybe he did say that, I don't know, but bang his wife and his daughter right in front of him, make him watch. Long story short, my cousin called over there pretending to be me, and he made some really fucked up statements to her dad. And so next thing you know, I'm going to work. And I tell the guys, like, look, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't fucking call. I didn't say this stuff, whatever. So I show up to work, and he's there talking to my manager, fat guy, or a short fat guy, whatever, right? Not physically a danger or whatever, but he was clearly not happy. And so my manager calls me over, assistant manager, and he's like, Jason, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, all this stuff. I'm like, look, it wasn't me. It was my cousin, okay? He said he wanted to, talk to one of your other daughters, and he asked for the number, and I gave it to him, and I don't know why he did this, but I swear I didn't call. I didn't say this stuff. Why would I do this? And then so manager's like, well, you need to give him your cousin's information or phone number. I said, all right, well, I'll call you, later, and I'll give you the information. I don't have it. I don't have the number, which is a lie. I'm not going to die my cousin out, other than that, because he put me in a fucked up situation to begin with. So, I'm, at this point, I'm worried that I'm going to go to jail for who knows what at this point. So I did, but I wasn't going to give the information or anything. I just said it's my cousin, not me, because I didn't want to get fired at the time. And so, I ain't giving you shit, or whatever. And it was it. There wasn't anything ever came for that, except for one time her sister was checking out and saw me and, sorry, you fucking crazy, you sick psycho motherfucker, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It was my cousin. He's something. And of course, my cousin blamed our other cousin who, he said, no, man, I was messing with him. And he's like, yeah, let's call over there. And I didn't know he was going to do all this shit and say all this shit. And I don't know. My other cousin just got out of prison anyways. I don't know, man. Maybe it was him. Maybe it's the other one. The other one, but, between the two of them, who knows? Point is, I should have known better than ever to do that. And that was the last time. Or anything. So, suffice to say, we didn't hang out for a little bit. And, he was out in California for a while. I remember he beat up his stepdad pretty bad. His stepdad tried to, man up and buck up and swing on him. My cousin wasn't no joke, man. He was, both of us, we're 6'3". He was 220, pretty solidly stacked, and he could, he'd take care of himself. And stepdad was just some drunk guy, and he tried to swing on him. My cousin beat the shit out of him, and they both worked together on this pipeline in California. And so it's like, because that's like 5 a.m. next morning, his stepdad's got these sunglasses on because he's all black and blue, and tells everyone he got jumped to the bar by 5 people, and he really just got beat up by his stepson. And, who knows why he was trying to put his hands on my cousin. Maybe my cousin deserved it, with some of the shenanigans he pulled. But even still, he was 17. And, he shouldn't have tried to do that. Actually, my cousin was trying to call his dad at the time, who was back in Ohio. And calling him and saying, man, you need to come get me his crazy hair. And while he's on the phone, his stepdad, tried to, buck up to him at that point. And so he just, realized he couldn't, couldn't push this 17-year-old around and got his ass whooped. That was it. And so, it's just, you grow up and things change or whatever. But That's a story about some of the ridiculous shenanigans with cousins. So I'm going to probably call it a day there. I think we're about 20 minutes, and that's well past the attention span of virtually everybody I know, including myself. So I just put out a video about a nuclear war video, simulation video about India and Pakistan. I'd done one previously, but it really wasn't good, and I really wanted to redo it because it's one of the big potential flashpoints for a nuclear escalation, and I don't think it gets talked about enough in American media sources. That is, Ukraine's a big one. Everyone talks about Gaza and Israel's a big one, and Iran, Israel, Iran, United States, but very few people talk about India and Pakistan because we're not necessarily directly involved in it. But those are two nuclear armed nations that have a long-standing border dispute. So check that video out. I think it was much better done than my previous one. And then also, like I said, I'm going to post some more stories here. Going to do some reviews, despite this kind of Star Wars themed room. Actually think about doing some reviews on some classic Doctor Who, because I was a big fan of this series and I still watch it. And I think I have a take and like to, I think some of the stuff, out there, I was looking at some of the stuff on the internet and gosh, it's so silly. Pretty fucking stupid, to be honest with you. And I feel like it needs a perspective from somebody from the United States. It's not, that kind of person. So somebody that's a little more freewheeling, Paul Orndorff kind of person, to be honest with you. If you know Paul Orndorff, you need a little Paul Orndorff in your life. So I'm, much more of a Paul Orndorff kind of person than I am like a British YouTuber type of person. So I felt like it needs more of a Paul Orndorff type of thing than a British YouTube type of thing. So be on the lookout. So thanks, everybody. Have a good one. Be kind to each other. Don't do stupid shit like we used to do. Don't curl a watermelon in the grocery store to get an arm pump. That's pretty fucking stupid. So, thanks.